cat. I'm not going to sing the Lion King song again.
She sang it once.
First time I showed this cat, I sang the Lion King song, and then she went out in the hallway and stepped on the laptop and ruined the recording. So
she's no longer in the royal line.
She's no longer in my favor.
But she's so cute.
She's so cute, and she's still my new little kitty cat, and her name is Kiki, and she's such a sweetie. But she's naughty. Do something cute. Say goodnight, Gracie. Okay, I'm gonna go lock her in a different room so she doesn't step on the laptop again. I locked her in with Gabe. He actually tolerates her pretty well. She hasn't done anything to make him mad yet, because we've only had her for...
She seems pretty laid back, relatively speaking, for a kitten.
Yeah, she is. She's super laid back. She lets the girls grab her and hold her and hug her and love her and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so last time when we were doing a show, I didn't have the camera, so we were trying to use Gabe's GoPro, and then it died halfway through, so we're just going to split the episode into two. And so last week, I'll cut it off where we stopped talking about things we like. And
poorly talking about things.
I know, I feel kind of
I was
bad.
not really prepared.
When I feel like I talked about anime for 15 minutes and didn't have time to talk about anything else.
Well, you know, once you get someone that's into anime talking about anime, 15 minutes is really pretty good.
There's so many shows I could talk about. I think, like, in the...
Oh, gosh, I got it started again.
No, in the not comments, but in the, like, summary part,
the description.
I'm just going to list, like, all the animes I
Real
suggest.
animes.
But the thing is, I'm going to list animes I will suggest for people who don't watch anime yet. If you already have gotten over the, you know, being able to admit that you might like anime, then ask me and I'll give you way more. But I'll start out with just the list for beginners. But it's, I mean, I know it's lame, but it's also so good. Whatever. Josh Rossi watched Grey's Anatomy for years. You think I'm embarrassed of anime when I have friends who watch Grey's Anatomy?
No, you have no reason to be embarrassed in the face of that. Nope.
Okay, so this week we're going to talk about ways that me and Lark are similarly crazy.
Or differently crazy, as the case may be.
The ways that we were differently crazy, though, last week when we got on it, it seemed like all the ways that we were differently crazy, you were just like, no, Alicia, I don't do that. No, Alicia, you're the only one who does that.
This discussion does have a function, because I think it'll make some things that we say make more sense.
I just think it's fun to talk about.
Oh, that too. Ooh. Oh no, we're not going to have time, probably. We should talk about mental illness and Christians and church sometime. That'd be a good topic.
We can do it
Ooh, we need to have a guest.
Let's just blaze through. Oh, you want
that'd be a good one with a guest. Yeah, I got a lot of friends that are Christian and mentally ill, so we could probably find. Probably enough. I could put them in a hat and we could just pick a guest.
We have speed round where like we assign each of them like a really quick question and then we like call them up and we're like 3 minutes go.
Yeah, answer this highly personal question about about a stigmatized subject.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And a good time was had by all.
Do you want to go down my list?
Yeah.
Okay. The very first thing that I'll put a link to this too for the Wikipedia article. Lark and I both personify letters and numbers so that they have gender.
And personalities. And sometimes stories.
And
numbers have backstories for me sometimes.
Well, then last week when we got a little bit into it, where we found out that you were like, no, I don't do that, is that depending on which letters, especially depending on which other letters they're next to, I'll see like a dynamic, like an emotional dynamic.
Yeah, and
so
I don't do that.
Some words to me look really like they're agreeing, and some words look like really discordant.
Yeah. And I don't do that.
Yeah. And sometimes I won't even realize it, but sometimes even just the shapes of like the right margin of paragraphs will remind me of things. So I'll be reading a paragraph about whatever, but like the paragraph itself will remind me of like, this reminds me of the beach, or this, or because the shape of the margin, because sometimes it looks like things. Don't let her in the hallway! I heard my door open. Put the cat out. Keep the cat in there because she messed up the first recording. She was on the laptop. Thank you. No.
Disaster averted.
Oh, okay. I have trouble accepting reality.
Yeah. Wait, elaborate. Because I don't remember, because that can mean a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm. It's so hard. That's one of the reasons I think sometimes we don't talk about these sort of
Perceptual
things.
stuff is hard to describe.
So hard to explain. I have to say, this is the reason why I both love and also cannot read a lot of Philip K. Dick. Because almost all of his books seem to deal with the fact that, like, reality isn't so easy to stay with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I can relate so much that, like, even though I love his books and I think, like, they're amazing, sometimes by the end of them, I am just too crazy. And I just can't. Like I said, like, I've tried to read A Scanner Darkly, I think 3 times, and, like, I've never gotten more than maybe, like, 4 chapters in.
Before you started being like...
can't
You know
do it.
what book was like that for me was, oh gosh, what's it called? Oh, it's a Virginia Woolf book, I think. Mrs. Dalloway.
Never read it.
Yeah, don't. But I don't know, because Philip K. Dick doesn't affect me that way, or at least Do Androids Dream didn't. That's the only one I've read. But Mrs. Dalloway did. So it's like that stream of consciousness thing where it felt. But for me, it feels like when I'm having stuff like that happen, it's more like a disconnected from reality thing. It's not like I think that reality is not real, or I guess kind of I feel like it's not real. It feels like everything's kind of like a dream, like I can't touch anything. Mm-hmm. Is that how it is for you?
It's more of like, what are the chances that this is what we landed on? That's what makes it's hard for me to accept that our reality is what reality is. I'm like, it does not make sense that this is where we would land.
So it's more intellectual than it is emotional.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's more emotional. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not hard for me to accept this as reality, but it doesn't feel like reality all the time.
Yeah. For me, it's just like, this doesn't make sense, or it only makes sense as much as anything else that people would think doesn't make sense. So, like, everything makes sense, nothing makes sense. Like this. But why is it like this? I think you have this too, where sometimes weird things happen when you look at yourself in the mirror.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really hard to describe it. It's not like I don't know that it's me, and it's not like I don't remember who I am or what I am, but it feels like there's some kind of disconnect there.
Yeah.
Where it's like I'm looking, it's like when you're reading a first person narrative and the person narrating is looking at the mirror talking about looking at themselves. It feels kind of like that.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. It's hard for me to look in a mirror and see a face and realize that is what I am inside of all of the time. And that, because to me, it gets to the point where I feel like this is just an interface. Like in computer terms.
Yeah.
And it seems strange to me that it's also real and it's also me. Yeah.
I hope maybe other people, maybe this is like a common thing, and maybe people just don't you ever wonder about this stuff, like, does everybody feel this way and they just don't talk about it?
Weird and strange.
Because I just never talk about it with people is usually what happens. Not even my shrink.
I get called weird and strange, and I have my whole life when I'm not even, I'm holding this stuff back. Like, I'm just making jokes, and people usually call, they like me, but they think I'm a little strange, and I hardly ever get to the point where I'm like, okay, now we're gonna talk about this stuff. Yeah.
I remember trying to explain to Mom the mirror thing, like how it would feel, and she was like, "Honey, I don't think you should, think that kind of stuff too much if you can avoid it. I don't think that." I don't remember exactly what she said, but she was a little concerned, not like concerned enough to go and be like, "Okay, we need to get this kid into counseling."
Yeah.
But no, she's like, I think you should tend away from that if possible.
No, it's true. Like, there have only been a couple of times where I'm just like, okay, let's do it. We're going to ride this thing through, see where we land. But it doesn't usually get a whole lot farther than those feelings. And then usually
I've
I'm
never
like,
done that. I've never done that. No. Well, I mean, because, the only time I kind of did that was in high school, and I mean, that didn't work out very well. Because I was like bulimic for 5 years and did all kinds of self-destructive things.
Yeah.
And then I felt really crazy.
That's where the video's gonna end, with that look on your face.
Like mild disassociation. Like if I followed it too far, I would just end up in like a really dissociative state. I think if I was to just write it, it would not be good. Nothing good would come of it.
I kind of already talked about that. Plus, we don't need to get into that. Okay, Lark says she doesn't have this, and it's not like this is happening to me all the time, but I can really sympathize with, like, I think, is it schizophrenia where you tend to have, like, audible hallucinations quite a bit?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. I can really sympathize with people like that, because every time I get a fever, part of how I know I have a fever is if I wake up and I can't control my thoughts. That's just one symptom I have when I have a fever.
I get that sometimes when I have a really high fever, but I don't think it's as bad as you get it.
When I get a fever,
it has to be really high.
When I get a fever, sometimes I try to take medicine to go to sleep, just so I can quit having to have thoughts. The way fever brain's awful. You can't control what you're thinking, but you can still feel like how futile and like pointless and uncontrolled your thoughts are. So it's not like it's like a high and you can just like have a good trip or a bad trip.
Yeah, it
always feels just like futile and tiring. But there was one time where I had a fever and I was trying to go to sleep, and I thought to myself, like, oh, I can't go to sleep because the TV's so loud. And I realized it was a fake commercial that I was hearing inside my imagination that was so loud I couldn't go to sleep.
That would be a weird experience.
So I always think, like, is this what schizophrenia is like? Because those poor people, like, it sucks so bad.
Uh-huh.
I really don't like it. And then just in general, sometimes I have a really hard time just feeling at ease, feeling like something bad isn't coming, feeling like things are okay.
Yeah, I think that's a lot more common experience.
Yeah.
'Cause that's called an anxiety disorder.
My friend Brian Jones at my last job, I remember one time I told him that, like, I want to go see, like, a psychiatrist, not because I want drugs, but just because I want to see, like, which disorders they would give me. And then and I forget what he said, but he pretty much
like a lottery. Which ones?
He was pretty much like, my mom was a psychologist and I was like minor, and like, let me tell you this and this and this, and it's all a bunch of bull crap. And I was like, quit telling me Santa's not real. Like,
Santa's not.
But Santa is real.
Because it does make you feel better when you can have a name to slap on him.
Fun.
Like a quiz, like an internet quiz, like what's your...
Yes! But Santa Claus is real, and we saw him or her.
We did!
Riding on a bicycle in Owasso today.
Like 20 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wearing shorts and the jacket and the hat.
The beard.
And the beard.
Yeah. And
the beard.
sunglasses.
Riding a bicycle down the street. And it was you don't see that kind of thing in the wild very often.
No. But I did not have a Santa suit in my car.
Has that happened to you before?
Did I tell you about the banana suit?
Oh, yeah.
My most disappointing hour. I was such a disappointment. One time, I worked at Tim Hortons, and we had a banana costume that we would make people wear and go stand on the street and hold signs sometimes.
Because working retail isn't miserable enough as it is.
And I had it in my car because it needed to be washed, and I hadn't taken it back to the store yet. And then I was driving around Midland, and out on the corner holding a sale sign was somebody dancing in a banana costume. And I was on the phone with Josh Rossi when I saw it, and I was like, oh my gosh, Josh, there's a guy in a banana suit. And he was like, you put that banana suit on right now and you go dance with him. And I was like, oh, I have my kids in the car. And he's like, they'll love it. And I was just lame, and I just kept on going. And
Holy shit.
he was truly disappointed in me, and it's legit. Like,
I don't know. I am a little bit, but I wouldn't have done it either if I had the kids.
Yeah, but I should have, because I had, like, when are you going to see somebody in a banana costume and have...
When you have a banana... Never. Never again.
Never again.
The odds are so low, and it already happened once, so that's it.
I know. Anyways, okay. Yeah. Are those all the ways? I think the rest
those are all the ones that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't talk about this very often.
Really,
so
it's not usually so bad. And that's why, like, I did have, like, in my notes, like, sometimes I feel spoiled. I mean, maybe I'm a little more mentally ill than other people. But I still don't feel like I have it that bad. Because hardly ever does it get really bad. And most of the time, it just makes things, I feel like, more fun. So,
you know, I never thought of it that way, but sometimes that's really true.
Yeah. My brain is pretty fun to
because
be
some
in.
of them are just, you know, unusual things. They aren't actual pathologies.
Yeah.
They're just like you know, numbers and letters and other objects. Because don't you personify
Pretty much
other
everything.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like everything.
Yes.
And that makes it. I can't imagine. It seems like it'd be very boring if you didn't do that. But I do notice that other people don't seem to talk to inanimate objects as much as I do.
Oh man.
Once we were in the car, and I don't know, I made some comment about, oh, I pointed out the window and said that star is a planet, and no, something, that guy is a planet.
There's a dent in that van. There's a dent in that cab.
That guy's a planet, and somebody else in the car was like, stars aren't guys, and I was like, that one is.
There's 3 dents in that cab.
3 dents in that cab. Dudley is the happiest character in that movie.
Actually,
so
that's,
I mean,
that's true. That's true.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm going down the line.
Except maybe the dog, but the dog dies. Spoiler for the movie that we didn't see what it was.
Oh man. Okay. Oh, and then I like that quote. One time we were talking to our aunt who does a lot of music editing, and she said, in my line of work, OCD is called genius. And I loved
It's
it.
true in a lot of lines of work.
It is true in a lot of lines of work.
Because my OCD is what makes me attentive to detail, and it's what makes me really fast at my job. Like, yeah, I'm really... Because I can look and I can see details, and sometimes it's annoying to people that are down the pipeline from me, because they'll be like, oh, this detail doesn't matter. But I'm like, but I found it, and once I found it, I can't unfound it, and I gotta mark it.
Do they ever just tell you that they fixed it?
No, because I never see it after they fix it.
Oh, okay.
I just find the stuff that tells me that I can't do the thing, that it has a problem in it.
Yeah, so I did want to talk a little bit about, because every once in a while, and it hasn't happened to me very much, but there's been a couple of times where it did get pretty bad. And one time, the last time I think, well actually the time it got the worst, I felt, I don't know what the word for it is. It was like a dread all the time, and I started having like reactions that like I knew were crazy reactions, but I couldn't help it. Like, I saw somebody on Facebook posted this stupid doctored picture. Do you remember that big seed pod you had when we were little that came in that like Nature and Science?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
big brown
I don't remember
seed pod
what it
where
was.
you could move the seeds, but you couldn't quite get them out of the pod because
Yeah.
it looked almost like the head of a sunflower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was kind of a UFO-y looking thing.
Somebody had doctored a picture to where they made a thing like that on somebody's body and was like, look at this.
Oh
weird
yeah, I've
parasite.
seen that one.
Yeah, it made me physically sick when I saw it. I couldn't, and like I couldn't quit feeling sick. Like,
mm-hmm.
it was
Like a
just
weird
bad.
kind of sick feeling.
Just nauseous.
Oh, just nauseous.
Like, but I couldn't quit feeling nauseous after I saw that picture. Like, and I wasn't sick. It was seeing the picture that was making me have that reaction. And then during that same spell, and it lasted for probably almost a week, where I wasn't quite right. I was laying in bed, and I heard a noise on the outside side of my bedroom wall, and I thought for a second, in my awake mind, I thought for a second that maybe it was a zombie. not just in a, like, I saw a scary movie yesterday, and now every noise, I keep thinking about that movie.
But in like an actual
there
way.
was probably about a second where I thought that was a real possibility. Like, I thought they were real and that was a real possibility. And then, like, as soon as I realized, like, I'm not asleep right now. I shouldn't be thinking that. Yeah. And so, but
well, I think that's one of the differences, colloquially anyway, between neurotic and psychotic, is that you are able to recognize and then, like, diffuse.
Yeah.
Like, if you're psychotic, I don't think you can recognize and diffuse.
It scared me that for a second I would forget those things aren't real. You know, it was scary because that's a lot closer to actually crazy.
Yeah.
And I remember Gabe at one point did tell me, he's like, I'm going to tell my parents because I want them to be praying for you. And I was like, I mean, go ahead and tell your... But it was funny because I also, once you have kids, I understand why it's hard to try to get help if you are having actual psychotic problems.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even really want anybody knowing that I didn't want them thinking I was even that close to crazy, because once you have children, it's like, well, what if this got worse? What if somebody at some point thought for the good of my kids they'd have to step in? And there have been times with people that I have loved where I have made decisions based on what I thought their kids needed, and I have, you know, done what I thought was right, but kind of also on the other hand, like, screwed the pooch. You know what I mean? Like, so it's not, this is a real situation that happens to people. I mean, sometimes when somebody is going through something, it gets to the point where you're like, this is getting too destructive. I'm gonna make my decision based on the kids, and no parent wants, you know, their claim on their children jeopardized at all.
Yeah, definitely not. I was gonna say something. I don't remember what it was. Dang it.
I thought I'd admit to that on the internet.
And a good time was had by all. That doesn't seem terribly. I don't know. Maybe this is just a symptom of how flexible my perception. That doesn't seem particularly crazy to me. Though.
No, it was just because I couldn't feel okay, and I couldn't feel okay for about a week, and like, yeah. But I wouldn't want it to be any worse than that. For a lot of people, it is a lot worse than that.
Yeah, for some people it is. For a lot of people it is.
Yeah. You know, and so now I feel like we're just gonna freestyle about mental illness. I tried to find the article. I couldn't find the exact article. I remember when Robin Williams died, somebody who I want to say was at least connected with show business, if not a celebrity themselves, posted an article where they were kind of scolding people for the way they felt like they had to jump on, like, condemning suicide. Not that people were I don't feel like anybody was like scolding at Robin Williams or anything, or it wasn't like Courtney Love, you know, reading a suicide note and saying like whatever. I forget. I saw the video when Kurt Cobain died, and she like would interject. She would read a line and then be like, "Selfish bastard," and then she would read another line. You know, it wasn't, people weren't like that about Robin Williams, but still, like, anytime somebody who's like publicly loved commits suicide, then there's suddenly, like, online, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but there's all this stuff about suicide and how tragic it is and how wrong it is and how preventable it is. And this guy was like, as somebody who suffers with severe depression and suicidal thoughts, it's kind of just annoying to me to see this. And he was like, you know, Robin, so maybe this is all inappropriate, but I liked the article. He was saying, you know, Robin Williams didn't necessarily like have something trigger him or something get so bad he thought he had no hope. And so it's not like something made him lose hope so he killed himself. The fact that he lived for that long just means that he was able to battle that impulse for so long, and that sooner or later he wasn't going to be able to say no to that impulse, and he was going to do it. And so this guy was like, I feel the same way. Sooner or later, the fight is going to be too tiring, and I'm probably going to kill myself. And it was nice to have somebody be that honest in the face of everybody who doesn't understand, trying to make sense of something they don't understand. And sometimes I think, especially with mental illness, it's okay to not come up with an answer for a situation you don't understand.
Especially depression, because my experience with depression is sometimes there's something I can pinpoint that's going on that's triggering it happening, and sometimes there's not. It's just that it's there and it's on you, and you have to, you know, you have to do the best you can while it's there and until it's not again.
And, you know, I also see a lot of articles on Facebook, and I find these articles annoying. There'll be articles that are like, 8 things you need to know so you'll know how to treat your friend with anxiety, or 8 things you should know about your friend who's bipolar, or 8 things that your depressed friend wants you to understand about depression. And the reason I don't like those articles is because there's one for, like, every single problem you could have, And I see them so much on Facebook that sometimes I just want to
I don't think I see those very often.
Maybe you just don't have friends who want to.
My friends don't want to understand people. All my friends are.
Usually the people who are posting it are trying to say, like, I have this problem and you guys don't understand me, so here, read this article to help you understand me. I know this is going to make me feel like or make me sound like a brat, but a lot of times when I see people post those all the time, it makes me want to say, like, we all have that stuff. And nobody else's life is going to stop being full and busy to accommodate you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I guess, because sometimes I feel like the articles themselves, they aren't just about understanding. They're about, like, here's how
like going out of your way
here's how you can accommodate people with these problems. And it's like, no, people, we can't wait for anybody to come. When I had that week, I went to work every day and I kept my mouth shut and I did my job. And then I came home and I was crazy to Gabe until I felt better. Yeah, so it's not like the guy with that article about Robin Williams was trying to explain, like, here's how you need to make extra allowances with people with this problem. It was more of just like, guys, he was like trying to call attention to the fact that Robin Williams had a certain kind of, I don't know what you would call it, personality or disease or spiritual condition, whatever you want to call it, where it was just more likely than not for years and years of his life probably that he was going to commit suicide because it was constantly hard for him not to. And that for some people that's what it's like. And I'm not saying you have to accommodate them, but I think you can at least understand, like, how tiring that would be.
Yeah, it's useful to look at it from that way. Yeah.
It's like
so that's more what the experience is like.
I remember one time a guy at Tim Hortons, one of the employees, he was getting one of his pins for either AA or Narcotics Anonymous. It was like a 3-year pin, or he was getting one of his pins and he was like really excited about it. And one of my other friends there was like talking to me about it, and he was like, yeah, he told me all about it. And I was, I told him, like, that's really great and stuff. And I said to them, I was like, yeah, like, being an addict, like, it is something to be excited about. Even when you get, like, the farther you get away from, I was like, to have something in your life that no matter how much it would destroy your life, no matter how much that it would be destructive and destroy your body, that you're never going to be able to stop yourself from craving that thing, that you just can't control craving that thing. I was like, that to put up with that feeling every day is a big deal.
Yeah.
My friend was like, I never thought of it. I didn't realize,
It's like carrying a rock with you everywhere.
Yeah, he's like, I didn't realize it would be like that. I'm like, well, then you probably don't realize which things in your life you're addicted to, but, yeah. Because, there's some people, like Gabe's Aunt Lavelle, she told us one time that she thinks God cured her of her nicotine addiction. Because when she smoked for years and years, and then one day she wanted to stop, and she was a new Christian, and she prayed and asked God to make her just not want nicotine anymore, and she didn't. And she never smoked again after that day.
That's how I stopped being bulimic. So.
That happens for some people.
And I always feel kind of guilty telling that story because, I've known other people with eating disorders. And, and that's always the thing. Why won't God just take this away from me? And then it's like, God just took this away from me. And I don't know why he just, well, actually, I have a theory. Yeah. My theory is that it's one of those things where you have to actually want to let it go. And my theory is that I finally had like a millisecond where I was actually willing to let it go, and God was like, okay, this isn't going to happen again because I know her. So my theory is actually that I'm a weaker person and God didn't want me to die prematurely. That's my theory.
Sometimes I think there are some people where God decides that he really wants them to understand grace, and other people he really wants them to understand perseverance. And so some people get to have that immediate grace so that they can teach other people not so much about getting over addiction, but so that they can teach people about grace.
Yeah, I feel like my whole life is about
Some
grace.
people have to deal with just bearing their own sinful crosses. You know what I
And
mean?
it doesn't seem fair at all.
Well, it's probably not, but none of us deserve anything,
yeah.
so I guess it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. I do always feel a little bit guilty about how blessed I am, because I'm really blessed.
Sometimes I do feel, no, I don't really feel guilty.
It's more like embarrassed, I guess. Like, I don't want to talk about it and rub it in people's faces.
I just feel it's like when I think about our family, and we kind of had a little bit of problems, but when I look at
we seem to have come out of it okay.
When I look at the scarring that so many people I know have, from just having like awful parents, it doesn't make me feel bad. It makes me feel sad because they never should have had to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
They should have experienced what I experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about mental illness?
I think I'm going to save anything else up. Because I think we should have a guest and we should talk about it more in depth.
About mental illness in the church?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think
There's
the
a lot
church is
to be
really
said.
bad at dealing with it? We harbor a lot of crazy people.
I think it's hit or miss. Sometimes it's really good, and sometimes it's kind of negligent, and sometimes I think the church just isn't aware that it's going on, and sometimes its reaction is bad. I think we're trying. I think we're trying harder than we used to try.
This might be a weird application of the verse, but a lot of times I don't tell people about, or I don't really care at this point anymore, but like when I was growing up, I was careful who to talk to about like my spiritual problems when it came to like sensing bad stuff being around. And I always think of the verse, don't cast your pearls before swine.
Yeah, you can't just... Yeah, I think this is probably one of the reasons why I have an issue with we need to be authentic in our communities. It's because I've been authentic in my community before.
Might not be ready for that.
Sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes the result is not so great, and maybe you should consider carefully who you talk to about. And I always remember the verse where where it's, it's Jesus, it's not us, but Jesus is saying there's something that he was not entrusting himself to them because he knew what was in men's hearts, where it's like, it's okay if you judge your audience and you don't just tell everybody in your church everything that's going on with you all the time. I mean, I think some people that works really well for them, and that's okay for them. But
because it doesn't even necessarily mean that there's something horrible about your church.
No,
it just means your church is full of people.
And some things are appropriate to share with some people, and they're not with others.
Hopefully, there's going to be at least a handful of people who know how to deal with what you're talking about. There's going to be a lot of people who don't have a clue, and you probably shouldn't ask them to help you because all it's going to make is
it's just going to freak them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy to freak people out.
Because usually the thing about, like, when it comes to stuff like this, because there are very few things in my life that I'm actually embarrassed about. Stuff like this, I would talk to anybody about it, except for I don't want them to have a bad reaction that we can't come back from.
Yeah.
The same thing with my friendliness, like... okay, I know we should probably wrap it up, but I heard on a podcast today somebody was talking about how there was some research done that said with acquaintances, on average, it's about 7 minutes of small talk before you get to like a real conversation, and that when people get to that 7-minute mark, that's kind of like the make it or break it moment where you see if people are going to pull out phones.
Oh, was that Phil Vischer?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, because I watched that.
Yeah,
that's why
I liked that episode.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
But I was like, man, see, I'm the kind of person, like, I realize that. I feel that moment. I see it coming. I wait for it.
And then you dive bomb it.
I can't always. You have to gauge the other person. But that's where I want to start. Like, I want to walk up to people and just be like, I don't know, anything.
How are your teeth so white? I'm just noticing. Your teeth are really white.
Very expensive toothpaste. It comes with 2 tubes. One that has like exfoliant almost like pumice in it. And the other one has the like bleaching solution. It's like $14. But it lasts.
Your teeth are really white though. I'm really impressed with how
it's really I'll show you which stuff it is. Product placement. I can pull it in here. Oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should. Who do you think should be our guest when we talk about mental illness?
Oh, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about that a lot because there's a lot of options. I mean, seriously.
If you know, because you want a guest, you want someone who has mental illness in the church.
Well, maybe not necessarily that. We'll have to talk
see if
about
anybody knows any mental health workers
Oh yeah, I didn't
who are
think of
also
that.
Christians. They might have
that'd be
some
an
good things to
option.
say.
Ah,
Yeah. Any
yeah.
mental health care providers? I don't know.
We need to. We might. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to think
I
about
know
it. We might
attorneys
know
who
some.
have worked with crazy people. But
I've worked with crazy people.
no, I mean like actual.
Oh, like actual
diagnosed.
diagnosed crazy people.
Who are like getting evicted or losing their children.
Oh, I see.
That has nothing to do with church.
No, it doesn't.
We all work with crazy people. Alright. Oh, the other thing is, I want to start making weekly playlists to go with the episodes and Lark.
Because why not?
Do you want to too?
Yeah, I'll make them.
Yeah.
I don't have anything better to do.
So you can listen to them while you're at work after you're done listening to us talk. Yeah. I already have my one for this week made.
I already listened to it.
Oh, was it good? I
Yeah.
changed it a little bit.
It had Wild Goose on it.
That's our sister's song.
Every time I hear that song, I'm always like, is it supposed to be majestic? Because all I can think is honk. And I'm like, that is not majestic.
Oh, man. Oh, man. It's our sister song, which is funny because it's about the brotherhood of the wild goose, but yeah.
Geese are horrible creatures.
Delicious.
Product placement. Taco Bell.